Seriously?
Hello again. My name is Josh Cashel, and welcome to another amazing lesson here at Seriously? English for Brazilians. This lesson is a doozy. We are going to continue our journey down the treacherous path of asking questions. I've already got a lesson out there about asking yes or no questions in the present and past simples with all verbs except the verb to be and modals. Now we're going to continue with this lesson with all other verbs out there in all other verb tenses. And we're going to take a special look at the verb to be, because in this situation, the question, the formation, the structure of the question is all the same. All right? You only have to do one little thing, a very necessary thing, but it's a teeny tiny, teensy little thing that you have to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it to form the question correctly, structurally, grammatically, and I'm going to show you why Brazilians almost always make mistakes. Especially in lower levels, it's a question of interference. It's always interference. It seems that's how it is when you learn languages. Your language, your native language, interferes when you're learning a new language. And that's totally normal. Relax. Don't worry about it. In this lesson, we're going to see how we can confront that, face it, and overcome that challenge. All right? So again, let me recap what we're going to see today. Asking yes or no questions in all verb tenses except the present and past simple with all verbs. Okay? Sounds like a hefty workload, but we're going to do it. Let's get right to it. All right, here it is. Ele está no jogo. Flamengo losing to Vasco 2-0. No, heads exploding. No, I'm only kidding. Flamengo is winning, of course. Relax, everybody. We have here a very simple sentence in Portuguese. Ele está no jogo. But, as you can see, there is no punctuation. Haha, this just gave me a chance to use my lightsaber. So there's no punctuation here. This sentence in Portuguese can easily go from being an affirmative statement, ele está no jogo, to a question, ele está no jogo, just by changing the intonation of the question, of the sentence, the musicality. Ele está no jogo? That's all you have to do in Portuguese. Thankfully, that was super easy for me to learn. But in English, unfortunately, and I apologize yet again, I think I will be apologizing in every lesson about the difficulty of English. In English, you have to make a change. You have to do something to make the question. And we're going to see exactly what happens here. So first of all, let's translate this into English. And it's actually, by the way, it's that not having to change anything in Portuguese that interferes in English. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So let's translate that. How do you translate this, first of all? Well, ele, he, está, is no, at, the, jogo, game. Okay. So we're going to make this, obviously, this is an affirmative statement. This is not a question. This is just the statement. So we're going to put a period at the end of that sentence. He is at the game. We need to identify the different bits, the different element of the sentence. So we have this word he. He is the subject. And is, which is the verb to be, is the verb. And then at the game is the rest of the sentence. We're not concerned with that right now. We're concerned with the subject and the verb. He is. This is the basic structure to make an affirmative statement. Now, when we want to ask the question, Ele está no jogo, because we don't know where he is. So we're wondering, we think he is there, so we want a yes or no confirmation. Watch what we have to do in English. We must do this. Is he at the game? Did you see what happened? We have to actually switch the subject and the verb. They change places. There is like an inversion going on here. Do you see? And the color coordination shows it pretty clearly. You have to switch those subject and verbs around when you're asking the question. This is where Brazilians will get it wrong, because in their language, they just change the intonation. They may go like, he's at the game? And then the intonation goes up at the end to make the question. Yeah, we understand obviously what you're asking. You're asking confirmation if the person is at the game. But when you're first introducing the question, you have to make that switch for it to be correct, technically, prescriptively in English. You can get away with it as a Brazilian, as a non-native speaker, and will understand you. But this, I want to show you how to do it correctly so you don't have to worry about making the mistake. So, is he at the game? Switch the subject and the verb. We're going to take another look. This is the verb to be. We're going to take a look at a modal verb. Can, could, will, would, may, might. Those are some of the modal verbs, okay? And we're going to see what happens. And you're going to see a pattern emerging. By the way, I almost forgot. What's the answer to this? Well, there are two options only. Let's choose another color. How about red? Okay, so the answer is either yes, comma, he is at the game, or blue, no, he is not. And that is not, you can contract together, and that becomes isn't. And that's how most people would say it naturally. Yes, he is, or no, he isn't. Thankfully, we do know where he is. He is at the game. He's fine. He's watching. He's enjoying it. He's had some popcorn and a hot dog, and he'll be home in a little while. Hopefully, Flamengo with the victory. All right, in this particular example, we're going to look at the modal verb can. And modals, some modals are can, could, should, would, will, may, might. These are a special class of verbs. And they're like the verb to be, the same, they follow the same rule when you're asking a question. So let's break it down again, just so you can really see clearly what goes on. So we have the worst words to hear on a Saturday from your boss. Você pode vir para o escritório. Well, in this case, we don't know if it's a question or a statement, but we're going to pretend that we're going to start it off as a statement. So, let's see what we can do here. Let me put this into white. All right, so again, this is just going to be a statement. Você, you, pode, can. Remember, modals, you don't conjugate them, all right? You don't put an S like he cans. You just leave them as they are. You can, and then the verb that follows them is in the infinitive without to. You can come to the office, okay? That's the statement. You can come to the office. Now remember, let's look at the subject is you, okay? That's the subject. And can is the modal verb. You can come to the office. Now, your boss calls you 9 o'clock Saturday morning, and he wants to know, he wants confirmation that you can come to the office. So what does he ask you? We have to follow the same rule, remember? So the verb and subject invert. They switch. They do a little switcheroo. Can you come? That's the verb in the infinitive without to, the main verb. Can you come to the office? All right? So again, we see the subject and the, oops, that's actually subject, and the verb switch positions. Okay? There's the little switcheroo going on here. You have to do it. A Brazilian could possibly say, you can come to the office? And they'll have that. They don't talk like that, really. But the intonation goes up at the end to signal a question. But you have to do the switch. All right? Those are two examples. The pattern is beginning to emerge. Do you see? The same thing keeps happening. We're going to take another look with the verb to be. We're going to look at how we can use a future tense. All right? Hold on one sec. I almost forgot the answer to this question, and there is really only one answer, and that is hell no. No way, man, I'm going to the office on Saturday. No, there are two ways you can answer this. Yes, I can. Okay? Or no, I cannot, which we contract to can't. No, I can't. And that's the more natural way. And no, I can't go to the office today. It's a weekend. Only if you pay me overtime, double, then we can talk. Okay? Can we talk? Yes, we can. Okay. Here we have a really interesting case, and it gets a little bit more complicated, but we're going to keep it with the verb to be. And if we look at this sentence, a sua mãe está aprendendo português. Again, let's begin this as a statement. And yes, it's true. My mother a minha mãe está aprendendo português. Her Portuguese is terrible, but she has a decent accent. I'm impressed. So, this is the statement, all right? And we're going to write it. This may get a little bit difficult to see clearly, but a sua, your, let's keep it short, mom, está is aprendendo, learning. This verb tense is learning is the present continuous, and we create that by using the verb to be plus another verb ending in ing. And it's the exact same thing as Portuguese. Está aprendendo is learning. It follows the same rule. It's really quite simple, that. Is learning what? Portuguese. So that's the statement. Your mom is learning Portuguese. Your mama. Yes, this is true. But if you want to ask me, you as a Brazilian, you want to ask me se a minha mãe está aprendendo português, all you have to do in Portuguese is change the intonation. A sua mãe está aprendendo português? Uau, que fascinante, que legal, gostei. But what do you have to do in English? Remember, we saw the verb to be in the first example. We had to switch the verb to be and the subject. But in this case, we have the verb to be together with another verb, and that's the verb learn. In the present continuous is learning. But the rule is simple. I have solved all of your problems. All you have to do is continue with that basic rule. You switch the subject and in this case, the verb to be is the auxiliary verb. And this is important. The verb to be is being used to help this sentence, okay? So what we're going to do and what we're going to see from now on is the switch of the subject and the auxiliary verb. All right? So let's take a look bit by bit to see what happens. So, what's the subject? Let's identify the subject. That's your mama. Your mom is the subject. And what's the verb? The auxiliary verb is, that's the verb. And let's put, let's make this, what other color can we use? How about yellow? And this is the present participle of the verb to learn, which is in combination with the verb to be. So your mom is learning Portuguese. Now let's ask the question. Remember, we switched the subject and the auxiliary verb. So, is your mom? And the main verb, learning, continues as is. We don't touch it, all right? We keep it right there, learning. And I'm just going to shorten this, Portuguese, okay? Is your mom learning Portuguese? So here, the subject, your mom, that's the subject. The auxiliary verb is, and then we've got the main verb, learning. Okay, it's the verb to learn. That stays, but you can very clearly see the switcheroo that's going on here. All right? Now this rule follows for all the other verb tenses, the future, the present perfect, the past perfect, the future perfect, all these different verb tenses, and we're going to take a look at one of them. But before we go, let's take a look at the answer. And what is the answer? We have two options. This is a yes or no question. So let's use the affirmative. Is your mom learning Portuguese? Yes, she is learning Portuguese. This whole extra bit here, learning Portuguese, that's an option, all right? But we have to have the subject and the auxiliary verb in this case, which is, here's the subject he, and now she, and the auxiliary is here, okay? Yes, she is. And the negative, how do we make it the negative? We'll use the red here. No, she is not. And that we contract to isn't. No, she isn't what? Learning Portuguese. We don't need that. It's understood. So those are the two options to answer those questions. Is your mom learning Portuguese? Yes, she is learning Portuguese. Thank you for asking. All right, we're going to end on this last example. And I'm going to try to kill two birds with one stone. In Portuguese, matar dois coelhos com uma cajadada só. I think that's what it is. In English, we kill birds with a stone. In Portuguese, you kill rabbits with a stick. Well, it means the same thing. We're going to try to resolve a couple of issues at the same time, all right? Again, we're going to follow the same kind of explanation. This is going to be a statement, all right? And we're going to break it down to see what we have when we ask the question. Você já foi para a Espanha? Yes, this is a true statement. I have. So, let's translate this. You? Now, but what we have here, and this is the second part of this conundrum that we have, it's the present perfect tense. Now the present perfect is the verb to have plus the past participle of the verb. And when we want to know se a gente já foi para algum lugar em termos de visitar e conhecer aquele lugar, we ask this fixed expression. All right, but in this case, we're making a statement, all right? So you, and this já is have already. This already would be the já. And then foi, this is the verb ir, and, but in English, we use the verb to be. So you have already been to Spain. Remember, we capitalize countries. You have already been to Spain. Now, how do we make the question? Remember, it follows the same basic rule in terms of inverting or switching the subject, and in this case, the auxiliary verb have. Those are the elements that we have to identify and then switch. So let's see what the subject is. You. That's the subject, and the verb, the auxiliary verb, is have, and the main verb is the past participle of the verb to be, which is been. And this is the structure that you're going to use to ask this question. Você já foi para a Espanha? Again, in Portuguese, you just change the intonation at the end to create the question. In English, you have to do all of these alterations. You have to make all of these changes. So let's see what that looks like. Let's switch the subject and the auxiliary. Have you? Now this já is going to change a little bit. Have you ever been to Spain? That's the question. Have you ever been to Spain? Você já foi para a Espanha? Have you ever been to the United States? Você já foi para os Estados Unidos? Have you ever been to Germany? Você já foi para a Alemanha? Have you ever been to Foz do Iguaçu? Você já foi para Foz do Iguaçu? No, I haven't. So here is what happens. The subject, you, has been inverted with the auxiliary verb have. And look, the main past participle of the verb remains. We don't touch it. We don't have to do anything. That is how you, from all the other verb tenses that we're going to see, that you can see, that you can use, this is what you have to do to ask the yes or no question. And what do you think the answer is? There are two options. The first one is, yes, I have. Now here have is the auxiliary because we have been to Spain. That's the optional bit. Yes, I have been to Spain before. Yes, I have already been to Spain. And the negative, no, I have not. And again, that continues, been to Spain, that's optional. And this have not, we contract it. Haven't. That E is, can't read that E. So yes, I have, or no, I haven't. In fact, I have been to Spain. I have already been to Spain many times. I love it, me gusta, me encanta. Yeah, it's a really cool country. And I suggest that you go at some point. So here, we're going to call it an end to this lesson. I'm not going to show you all the verb tenses because I'm going to put it in the body of my blog so you can see other examples and how it works. Okay, otherwise this video will take 15 hours, and I know you don't have 15 hours. So I appreciate your patience. Please subscribe if you feel you have the time or the desire. I'd appreciate it. Leave me a comment. And recapping, all we do is a switcheroo. We switch it around, the subject and the verb, or the subject and the auxiliary verb. We leave the main verb alone. Okay? So I really enjoyed making this lesson. I think it clears up a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next lesson, okay? Cheers.
Seriously?